other. Okay. Yay! Okay, I will cut that out. She doesn't need to see me doing that. Okay, so on a scale from 1 to 10, like 10 being like your best virtual YouTube star live, and then 1 being like the opposite, what would you rate that lesson?
I would give it like a 4.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the worst lesson ever.
No,
that was like my
it's
first
not.
virtual lesson.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a little bit below average, I would say.
Okay, well, thank you for being so vulnerable too, for making that your first lesson ever or virtual. Okay, so what did you like about it though?
What did I like about it? I can
Yes.
tell you what I do like.
I know.
Be like,
We're gonna start with like.
I mean, I like that I didn't just read them. I like my kids were still engaging, even though it was still like a longer book. They were still giving me like thumbs up, thumbs down. They were still like nodding. So they were still engaging with me. So that was, I really like that. I was still asking questions.
Yes, I totally agree. They were definitely engaged and they were looking at you and responding. So I think that's awesome. Okay, so if you had to do it all over again, what would you change to move it closer to that like, living my best YouTube star, million hits life?
I would choose a different book.
Okay.
I would choose a different book. That book
Absolutely.
was too long. I might even like take parts of that book and then connect it to a different book because that book had good parts in it, but it was just too long.
Awesome.
It just wasn't right for them, especially first day
Right.
of virtual.
Right, because I was trying to figure out what was the district when they assigned this book. What were they trying to convey? Okay, we're like a community. I'm like, Davis and I probably know 1,000 books that are better. I'm like, this is a community. Here's how it looks different and different. So I was thinking the same.
It's a really cute book, and it
It's very
has cool information. I probably could have taken parts of that book and then connected it to other books.
Awesome. Okay, so we have that. So that's what you would change to move it closer. So what do you think the kids would be doing if we moved it closer to a 10? How would they look differently if you're giving that lesson with a different book?
So then what I would do is I would break it into parts. So I would go, okay, so what we just did, like what breakfast looks like around the world, what does your breakfast look like? Now you do it instead of that long piece. All right, we just read about what they wore to school. What do you get to wear to school? Do you have to wear a uniform or do you get to choose? Let's go. So break it into more manageable pieces because, they're in second grade.
Exactly.
Their attention span is a little bit longer, but it's only so long.
Right. Okay, so we're going to break it up in pieces and see if that engagement is more interactive. They're benefiting more from like understanding versus we didn't realize the context of the other book was really hard. I mean, it was a higher level, but some of it was really good. I was like, oh, I like that piece with the breakfast. That was super cute. Okay, so we're going to break it up in pieces. Okay, so we were to do this with your next read aloud. How could we measure that? Like, so if you were to implement that, how could we measure that change?
That's a good question. So, change.
It's hard,
Me
right?
think about that.
I know.
I guess seeing like, am I doing like breaking it up?
Exactly.
Okay, that's what.
Exactly.
That's I was like, wait, hold on.
Exactly.
I'm thinking too hard.
Exactly. So when we watch it, we'll be able to see. Or when you're giving that lesson or when you're planning for it, you'll be able to say, okay, these are my breaks. And then now that you're in this like virtual lens, you'll do things that you never even thought about doing in person. I mean, it's just completely different style. So I think even in your planning, we'll notice, you'll be able to measure that. This is how I broke it up. This is how I made it interactive for that virtual piece. So yeah, I'm sorry. I was like,
wait.
I'm like, she's thinking really hard.
Wait a second.
Perfect. Okay, so we have that accountability. We're gonna do that. And then, so I was thinking is, once you've done that, how do you think you and your kids would feel if we moved up to a 10 and we broke it apart? what would that, how do you think you and your kids would come away? What do you think you come away with that would be more beneficial if we made that adjustment?
I think the kids would understand like why we're doing this better.
Right.
They would get more out of the lesson instead of it's just a set and get.
Right.
And yeah, they would understand why we're doing it instead of this is just what we're doing. And they would,
Awesome.
yeah.
So that's our goal.
Yeah.
Are you good with that goal?
Yeah.
I love that goal. Okay, so they're gonna have a clear understanding of when I do this read aloud, this is the purpose versus every day we do a read aloud and then so I love that. So we're gonna like build in some purpose in there. Okay, I think that's a great goal. Okay, I'm excited. Okay, so we talked about kind of some strategies. Because you already talked about that. You talked about breaking it up and then maybe having like an action for each of those little pieces. And then now I know you're probably even more comfortable. You could have them do a discussion or turn and talk because I know that is super difficult on virtual. And then getting them all back is just so building that in some way where they can still have that piece. I think that's going to be awesome because they'll get to interact with you and each other. Okay, perfect. Okay, so next week, so you have a whole week, and then we'll meet again on Friday, and then you can show me your video of you implementing all these really exciting things. I can't wait to see it. And then we'll go from there. But I think that's a really good strategy and a really good goal. We're going to build in some interactive pieces during that interactive read aloud to kind of break up that monotony and make sure they're understanding and make sure it's purposeful. I love it. Okay, I can't wait to see you next week. Bye, Coach. Okay, I'm going to end it. Okay, quick and painless.